Recording in.
So, welcome to the 77th episode of Wayne's World. No. We have Rita Killinger, and she's with Rebuilding Together Broward County. And as timing goes, they're doing some construction work outside of her place, redoing a driveway or something. So she's getting a little noise. And then my neighbor, I had to shut down the window because I have friends from Michigan, not friends, they're friends, but neighbors that are snowbirds, and that's just terrible. And he's hard of hearing and deaf, and so he's really loud when he talks. So I had to shut down on Wednesdays when he's here visiting. So anyway, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And let me just say that the construction happening on my end in the background is very on brand for me.
It's awesome.
We're rebuilding Broward as we speak, right in your backyard.
Well, I'll tell you what, we actually were affected by the flood in April of last year. Our house flooded significantly. I'm in East Hollywood. I was 8 months pregnant at the time, and we had about 1.5 feet inside the house. So our driveway is one of the steps that we're taking to mitigate some of the flooding that happens, at least in our driveway area. And it's been a long process of rebuilding. Everything was torn down to the studs and wild, had a birth in the middle of it, and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Just an everyday occurrence, right?
I know.
And you have two daughters.
2 daughters. One is 2, and the other one is now 6 months. Yep,
And
they definitely keep us busy. Nora is my 2-year-old, and Stella is the 6-month-old.
Oh wow, 2 awesome names. I love both of them.
Yeah.
Stella, of course, from Streetcar Named Desire, and I had an aunt Nora that went by Rita.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's very random.
Yeah, it is very random and apropos. So
yeah.
That's. I mean, I'm always fascinated by what people name their kids, and
we went through. My first was born during COVID. She was a little COVID baby, so she was kind of like the light at the end of our tunnel. So Nora means light, Stella, star, light. So we kind of have a little theme going.
Right. So the next one?
I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned.
So let's talk a little bit about your life before we get into what y'all do, because I love what you guys do. But so you're another smart trained from Ohio. What part of Ohio are you from?
So I'm actually from Dayton, Ohio. Not too many people are familiar with us, but if you are familiar with us, it's probably because of the Air Force Base, and the Wright brothers were from Dayton, Ohio. So it's a very important Air Force Base, the Air Force Base Museum, and all sorts of, first in flight stuff happens there. I lived in Cincinnati for, about 8 years or so before moving to Florida 6 years ago. So Cincinnati, Dayton area.
Now, did you meet your husband there? Did y'all start dating?
We did. So actually, I was living in Puerto Rico at the time. Prior to that, I was living in Guatemala. And while I was in Puerto Rico, I was supposed to go to grad school, this and that. I was moving. I was going to go to Seton Hall, actually. I did a trip to Haiti to help out after the earthquake. And I ended up getting MRSA, and I had to essentially quarantine myself. So I had to relinquish my spot for grad school. I got a job in Cincinnati. I had like a 2-year plan, and I met my husband at the end of that 2-year plan. So I stuck around. We bought a house. One day we decided we just wanted to sell our house and move to the beach. And so we sold our 4-bedroom house and moved to a 1-bedroom condo in Hollywood on the beach.
I love that. So
and now we live in a house, but yeah.
So what were you doing in Guatemala?
I was actually working at an English language school. A little bit different than what I'm doing now, but I went with college a few times, and then the last time I went, I actually just ended up staying. I decided I wasn't going to go back for a little bit. And then there was an opportunity in Puerto Rico, and I moved in the mountains of Puerto Rico in Orocovis, and I worked in a school there, and the rest is history. It's kind of been a winding path to get me to where I am now, but everything is interconnected in its own way.
I love your courage, though. I mean, that's some pretty neat things to do.
Yeah, I was definitely a traveler in my 20s. Yeah, not really any care in the world, other than
So
when my visa would expire.
So you were teaching children or adults or both?
Children. Yeah, I was teaching. I was teaching science and English in Puerto Rico, and then in Guatemala, I just worked like in their marketing kind of communications for the school. It was an English language school.
I love your wide range of experiences, though, which makes it perfect for you to be working for Rebuilding Together Broward County, because that also not a typical job. But I can understand. I'm assuming you're pretty passionate about what you're doing. You seem to be when I met you.
Yeah, I really do think we're making a huge difference in Broward County, and a lot of my past experiences sort of led me to this position. So I have a lot of past experience in working in the nonprofit world. When we moved in, my husband and I moved into our house in Cincinnati, we completely remodeled the house ourselves with the help of my grandpa, who now is 92 years old.
Wow.
But his dad was a carpenter, and he built houses and did all sorts of things. So my grandpa has this wide knowledge of, general construction, I guess you can say, and taught me everything I know. So he taught me how to do electrical. We did all the flooring in my house in Ohio. We did, the bathrooms together, everything. And then I, did teaching my husband, and that ended up leading to me getting my real estate license also when I moved to Florida. And we're in the middle of a remodel now on our house, as you know. We're not doing all the work ourselves because we have our hands full with these two kids, but all of that led me to Rebuilding Together Broward, and I have a really big passion for creating safe and healthy spaces for individuals in the community.
It's really was incredible. So I spent a Saturday. First, I got to come as Superman, and I forgot my bag of change of clothes, which Superman never should do. But so I drove home, changed, and came back, and got to work. Y'all were doing two houses. If you recall, you were painting them and doing landscaping. And I found out at 60, I get cramps in my hand when I paint. And of course, they've got me on a ladder, or y'all have me on a ladder, which I'm not really crazy about heights. And but I was one of the taller ones that like to say, well, you can reach up here and do it. But I took pictures of the house before and after, both of them, because there's two. And what a difference. And you could see the attitudes of the people that own the homes change, because
100%.
you throw so much pride into what they have. And it's just a beautiful thing to witness and to be a part of. And you had such a cross section of people helping. One thing I noticed, people always are looking for a way to help, but they don't have the avenue to go help a lot of times. So you had several different groups, but my favorite were the high school kids. First of all, they worked really, really hard. And second of all, they just had such a great attitude. And it kind of, a lot of times when you're maybe at the mall and you see kids of that age walking around, you're like, oh boy, we're in trouble. But then when you meet a bunch of teenagers that are taking their Saturday morning to do that and just watch their enthusiasm and getting up early and they were finishing. I mean, some of the adults were taking breaks and chatting around, but the younger people, they were going at it, whether they were digging, throwing mulch, blowing in plants, or chipping or painting. It was very impressive. And
they definitely had the stamina. I will say that. We've had a lot of youth come out to our volunteer events. We just had one, we call it our MLK Junior Day of Service. We had it over MLK Junior Weekend. And we had a lot of youth come out. We had law enforcement come out working alongside youth in the community. It was really a fantastic thing. And, it gets everyone, not just youth, but youth included. It gets everyone really invested in where they live. So, I think it's a wonderful thing where we were working on for the Construction Industry Service Challenge, where you dressed up as a superhero, a Superman. We were in Dania Beach, so we do quite a few houses in Dania Beach. We did 40 last year. We're hoping to do more this year. And it's when we do work like painting, exterior painting and landscaping of a home, it's a part of an overall greater revitalization of the neighborhood, right? Where we're allowing people to have pride in their neighborhood, have pride in their homes, and be happier in their homes as well. In addition to all the things that we're also doing to keep them safe and healthy in their homes, making those upgrades and repairs and improvements as well.
Right.
Well, is this like a Habitat for Humanity? Do you work in conjunction with them, or is there some kind of affiliation?
No, there isn't. We really don't work in conjunction with them. We're a little bit different. So Rebuilding Together is a national nonprofit, and we are the Broward County affiliate. Similar to how you would have Habitat, and then you have Habitat, in each little market.
Yep.
So we do houses every single day. We're working on multiple houses every single day. We're doing safety modifications. We're doing things like grab bars for seniors, installing ramps for individuals who have disabilities maybe and can't access their house in the way they need to. We do a lot of work for veterans as well. And a lot of these are, they intercede each other. A lot of times, we'll have a senior who's a veteran and has a disability. But we do this work every single day, and we are doing work in their spaces that they already live in, so they can age in place. It helps with affordable housing, obviously, here in South Florida is a very big issue. So we're not reconstructing new houses per se on the day-to-day basis. We are taking existing home environments and making them safer and healthier for individuals to live in.
I can imagine with the housing crisis nationally. I live in Florida. I moved here a year ago. I understand that everybody wants to come here. The whole problem that we're having in this country is that there is just not enough existing housing. And then you go into each state, into each municipality, each county, it's all fractious in getting permits and zoning and everything. So your mission that you have right now is even more critical because, as you say, they age in place. People are staying in place. I don't know. It's kind of a mess right now, right? Housing.
It is, and I will say that our model and the mission of Rebuilding Together as a whole is very sustainable, right? Because we're taking structures and land that at times has been in families and passed down and for generations.
Sure.
And we're allowing that to stay within family units as well, and just making them, like I said, safer and healthier places for generations to come to live in. But it's very sustainable in that we're using property that already exists, right? In a place like Broward County, that's really important because there really aren't that many places left to build.
Right.
And if you do, it's very expensive. So
Right.
Yeah, it's 100% charitable contributions that keep this going, correct?
It is, yes.
Okay.
So, we are a nonprofit. So we receive funding in a variety of ways, donations, obviously, grants. We do work with cities. I mentioned Dania Beach. We work with their CRA. We've worked with Fort Lauderdale. We work with Hollywood. We work with various cities across Broward County as well.
Wow.
We actually, we did, so the flood that happened this past April, we did some recovery work with that as well. So not only do we do critical repairs and improvements in houses that need it just because they need it, and oftentimes these are because maybe a senior lives there and they're unable to do the work themselves, or someone who's disabled is unable to do the work themselves, and it's just gotten to the point of they need some help. Obviously, the finances play a big part in that too for a lot of the population that we serve. But we do also do recovery work. So after Irma, we did a ton of work. We even went to the west coast of Florida and helped with Hurricane Ian. We collaborated with Rebuilding Together Tampa Bay over on that coast. I think I was like 6 months pregnant, and I installed a tile backsplash in one of the kitchens in one of those houses. They have footage of me like on the table saw, cutting tile on the tile saw. But
If you
yeah,
were getting
we
paid,
do
you'd get
that.
time and a half.
I'm sorry?
If you were getting paid for it, you'd get time and a half.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I should have thought of that.
Wouldn't it be
I should have thought of that. That's too funny. Yeah, two
All
incomes
right.
here, right? And we did, after the flood in April that hit Broward County, we did some work after that as well.
That actually hit your house, which
That actually hit our house. Yep.
yeah, I did the 1,000-year flood with a company, A1 Flood Tech, up in DC, and we went to Nashville for their big flood, and we were there late, and we went down there to make money, and then we turned into a not-for-profit while we were there, because we had all these crews, we had an RV for the guys to sleep in, we brought in a big thing of diesel and a generator, so we were ready to work, and there was no work to be found, but we did find a church that had no money and they had no insurance. So we said, well, let's call Big Daddy, who unfortunately passed away last year. Or fortunately, he's in heaven now, so we're happy for that. But so we called my buddy Greg's dad. Big Daddy was Greg Senior, and and we couldn't get a hold of him. And I said, come on, your dad would want us to do it. So we ended up staying for, I was like 5 days working on that job, and it was incredible. I loved what we did, but our guys all got paid. The only one who didn't get paid was me, which I should talk to Greg about. Anyway, but and then Greg, but his family owned the company. The people that were working at the church also had their houses damaged, just like you, and so they were working half at their house and then half doing the volunteer work at the church, and it's just incredible, and I think you would have fit really well with those people. They're sort of made from the same cloth that you are, and it's just amazing, because a lot of people would get very selfish when bad things happen to them, but for you to continue to go out and work the community, and and a baby at home, and
Well, it's such a crazy juxtaposition, right? Because here we are rebuilding together Broward County, and we provide recovery services for individuals, after this flood. Meanwhile, I personally am going through it. Our executive director, actually, he also had his house flooded as well. So that's most of our staff was going through it as well. But I think, it really did set us up for, it set us up if I can take a positive out of it, in a positive way, right? Because we were able to empathize, really. Now we can truthfully say, we've been through it. I know what it's like to be literally 8 months pregnant and with a toddler. My husband's stuck, by the train tracks in his car. My car's floating away somewhere and water's coming into the house. And I'm trying to get my dogs and my toddler and towels. Forget the towels. They don't do anything during a flood that size. And we're, trying to get on a bed and hopefully the water doesn't come and nobody knows what's happening. And then the aftermath, you wake up the next morning and you're like, oh my God. And I'm in this field, right? But it's still, what do I do? What do I do? Okay, we get to work. At that point, I was 8 months pregnant. I had no choice but to get out there right away. Luckily, I had a fantastic contractor that I knew came out with the remediation team, and they literally began work right away. But it's definitely been a process. We were essentially homeless for almost 3 months.
Wow.
We were literally bouncing around from friends' couches to friends' guest rooms. Every week we were staying almost every week somewhere new. Occasionally we'd stay a week at an Airbnb maybe, just to kind of find a little bit of respite. But all of that going on, while also trying to work, right? And work to help people who are in the same situation as we were at the time. And it really does build a level of empathy that unless you experience it, you truly don't get. But I can say that I absolutely get it.
Now, you did spend a couple days also at another public facility, right?
Ooh, where?
A hospital?
Oh, yes. Actually, it was like a vacation. Yeah. That was like, oh, I can't wait. I literally stayed in the hospital, I think, for 5 days. I had a C-section. So I did stay there for an extended period of time. And after all that bouncing around, and then at that time, they were starting to reconstruct the walls in our house. And we were barely moving back in. We still are doing stuff in the house. But yeah, that hospital stay was I was on vacation. I might well be. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure I can't stay another day? No.
That's great.
Hey Rita, how do you prioritize order of service? So I'm imagining, a list, but let's throw in a natural disaster like you're talking about. I'm that's probably going to take priority, right, over the existing services that you provide, right? Go into a little bit about how that looks schedule-wise.
Yeah, so we do around 350 to 400 houses a year. So when I say we're working on houses every day, we really are working on houses every day, multiple houses at the same time. We receive referrals from other community partners. We have people who self-refer. We canvass in communities and neighborhoods that we're working in. So, we find clients that way. And when we take in clients, we do a 25-point assessment on their house. We go in and we see what needs to be done. So our home repair techs go into the home. They have this 25-point checklist essentially, and they're marking, the critical repairs that need to be done. Based on that and based on the assessment, we essentially prioritize the ones who are most at risk, most in need. And that really is, for the most part, how it works. Obviously, some of it also depends on funding here and there. We have certain special projects that we, have in the back of our wheelhouse, I guess you can say. If we do have certain funding for these special projects that tend to be more intense. We have someone right now, he is a Navy veteran. He was on a battleship that exploded. He narrowly lived the explosion, came home, and his house caught on fire and burned, essentially burned down. I mean, it didn't really burn down, but it's unlivable, truthfully. That would be a special project. Obviously, that need is extreme, but we have to keep that. We're working on that right now to secure funding and secure partners in order to be able to rebuild this house for that individual. We have another house fire where I believe it was her 8-year-old grandson was actually perished in that house fire. We're working on securing funding for that, right, to build that back up. So we have special projects that do have significant need, but require significant resources. We try and, while we're waiting, to secure funding and resources for those kinds of special projects, we're prioritizing, what we can get done now, and the need that, is now, and the resources that we have, and how we can address that. So yes, there is a prioritization based on risk and need and safety, and yes.
I think you're amazing. I mean, what your involvement in the community. Wow. I mean, I always wondered about the prioritization and all that. And, you kind of figure out it's kind of common sense things like you talked about, but yet, when you're talking with people and you're talking real things that are happening and the urgency that goes along with that, right? And then at times you need to be diplomatic about it. I'm sure, like, hey, I know we said we were coming here, but here's a fire over here. Can you be patient? All of that is involved in the decisions that you make.
Yeah, it's not always easy, but for the most part, I think people have a general understanding.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really great because people don't often associate housing with health outcomes, right? But housing is a main social determinant of health. And sure. Your environment is very impactful on your overall health, not just your physical health, on your mental health, right? On even your just overall well-being. If you feel safe and secure in a space, you feel safe and secure with yourself. And physically, you're more safe and secure. So that's, essentially what we're trying to do. We also have an initiative as a part of our Safe at Home program where we are starting to look into going into homes for pediatric patients who have asthma or respiratory illnesses, and reduce some of those respiratory triggers in the home. Simple things like cleaning the vents, ripping up old carpet and replacing it with tile or laminate or something, that's not going to be a trigger. Doing small things like that can actually make and statistically has shown to make a huge difference in things like a reduction in emergency room or urgent care visits, a reduction in medication, a reduction in missed days of school, things like that. Those are simple things that not everybody thinks about, but they're like huge impact, huge return. So
let me tell you something that Kelly and I, now this is going to really date the gap in years between Kelly and I and you. But Kelly, do you remember when we were kids, there was a television campaign to not eat lead paint in your house? Because I don't know if you heard about this, if you're aware of it, Rita, but there was a time when lead paint was used, okay? And literally in like inner city, it was probably in the inner city where it was flaking off, and kids would go up to the wall and they would take a flake of it and they'd eat it. Lead paint, brain, not good shit going on, right? So anyway, when you were saying that, I thought of it. Kelly, do you remember that or not?
Oh, I do. Oh, I do heavily. I used to go to the refrigerator and eat butter.
But Wayne was eating lead paint.
Yeah, I was eating lead paint. He was eating butter. That's hilarious. Thanks a lot, Rita. You don't even know me. You're taking a good shot. I like that. You get bonus points moving up to the front of my line. That's funny.
So
yeah, I mean, it's wild though. It's wild.
Like Rita, I warned you, time flies, and we're already like hitting towards that edge.
Oh,
I do want to talk about, and I love that you shared with how people come in that need help and different organizations that I imagine social services and churches and stuff that partner up with you. But how about the people, as I know, like, was it Women in Roofing, I think were there? Is that the name of
the we have, yes, the national, there were a lot of organizations actually that were a part of our day that I think you're talking about, the Construction Industry Service Challenge. We have a great amount of community supporters, community partners. We're always looking for more, obviously, but we're incredibly grateful for the ones that we have. And, the people who partner with us and the people who support us, the organizations, the businesses, companies, everyone who supports us really is making a direct impact in the lives of individuals across Broward County. And we're obviously forever grateful for that. We also, I recently started this past year, we have a group called She Builders. And basically, I don't know if you've heard, if you knew this, but we are a group of, it can be women, it can be men, it can be really anyone, but we come together. Right now it's every 2 months. We actually have an event tomorrow on Thursday, the 25th at Batch. And it's a networking event. We have light bites, we have drinks, we have a guest speaker typically who's speaking about something to get us really motivated and excited. And it's all about women supporting women, men supporting women, anybody supporting women, right? We're all supporting each other with the overall focus of supporting other women in the community. So with the money that we raise from these events, from the ticket sales or the memberships that we might have or the sponsorships that we might have as a part of these events, those essentially go towards helping women-led households or women-focused organizations in the community. So we hope to do a project the early part of this year for one of those households or one of those community organizations. And again, just women helping women in the community and empowering each other and just being a support group for ourselves, essentially.
Well, our mutual friend and our permanent co-host, Michelle Hastings.
Yes.
Women Empowering Women in Development. Wayne's World and Kelly support her and her group, and a lot of us get roped into a lot of things that she's involved with. Group is involved with Dawn Miller and a bunch of these wonderful people that are involved with the nonprofit. And I love how the nonprofits support each other. A lot of times you'll see nonprofits kind of like, I want to stay away from you because I don't want you taking some of the money that can be donated to us and end up going to you guys. And I found that more up in DC. Maybe that's just the climate that I came from. Down here, I don't see it at all. And I just see so many wonderful people. It's just another great reason that we all live in South Florida. Wayne lives almost like in Central Florida. But He does. He comes down here for business. So
No,
but
we partner with a lot of other community organizations. The Area Agency on Aging, we partner with them extensively also to do work for seniors. We partner with Community Care Plan through the Asthma and Respiratory Illness Triggers Initiative. We partner with quite a few other organizations. And Nichelle, you mentioned her earlier. She was one of our guest speakers actually for She Builders. And that's how I came to knowing her. And she's just like the most lively force. And, I'm forever grateful that she connected the two of us as well.
now listen, most
she's
people
awesome.
don't know she's actually 3 people. She's triplets.
Yeah.
How to get that much accomplished. I mean, she really is just amazing. And her place was affected by the flood as well. And you never would have known it to see how she was going. And, but she wasn't pregnant. So.
Well, minor detail.
There were some construction company leaders that were at the event I was at, which I thought was fantastic as well. Construction, all of us were super busy, but I always say, if you want something done, find somebody who's busy. And you guys
Yes.
have really connected with a lot of really bright groups. But we will put your website on the podcast notes. So if people don't want to reach out to you in Broward, or if you're, we have people from all over the country, so they can find Rebuilding Together Prince William County, which is what I had up in Virginia, which I worked with them a little bit back in the day, or wherever in the country, but most importantly, Broward County, because that's our favorite.
Our favorite, right? Yeah, of course. You got to have a favorite. Yeah, that would be fantastic. If you want to get involved with either volunteering or becoming a partner with our organization, feel free to reach out to me. Obviously, you can find me through our website or through my LinkedIn, or just get a hold of me.
Awesome.
Happy to have a conversation. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. It was nice to chat with you.
Absolutely. Thank you both for having me. And this was really fantastic. I'm glad to share the message and the good work that we're doing.
I don't want to go out on a limb, but you're one of the best guests we've had in 2024.
Well, I'll take that.
You were really working. We appreciate you. Have a good rest of the week. And remember, people, we're rebuilding together all over. So let's do it together and find the right organizations to do it with. Thanks so much,
Awesome.
Rita.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Ciao, guys.